My name is Emmaus Kimani. I'm an artist curator. I'm part of the Brush 2 collective based in Nairobi, Buruburu. So we've been working with VR and AR, courtesy of the Goethe Institute with Janga CCI. So we had 3 months of training and equipment in our facilities. So we had a weekly facilitation with experts who've been gaming experts from Black Rhino, and then we also had a whole week of intensive going through VR and virtuality with this guy called Dominic, and then yeah, so 3 months of intensity in learning and playing with the equipment. And then we had 3 weeks of creating artworks in VR, and then we had a further time later on in post-production, so bringing in all the creations that we've done to now make it get into output that can be viewed by everyone else, so in AR and VR. So Black Rhino guys worked with Unity to create experiences that now everyone can see at the normal experience. In terms of preserving culture, I worked with 360 film before. So around February of 2019, we did a documentary series called African Space Makers, and we went around at spaces that are created by Africans, like at really interesting spaces, and we were looking at the social, economic, and cultural implications of these spaces. So what the spaces can do, and from the space maker's perspective. So we documented 5 spaces, like in 360. So how you encounter the spaces is by wearing the VR headsets, and so it's docufiction. So we use a bit of storytelling to make it more interesting. And I think this is a very interesting way of preserving culture and preserving the evolution of culture. So there's this other technology whose output can also be VR, called photogrammetry, and what it does is it maps out spaces digitally with very high resolution. So when you spoke about having such output from the museum, if photogrammetry was used to map out the entire of the museum and the artifacts, like all of them can be as tangible and as real virtually. So you can enter the museum and you can actually walk on every inch of the museum and see the artifacts. And so what this does is it enables people from anywhere to access whatever we have at our Kenyan museums. It's being used a lot with bigger museums. So you can go to an exhibit anywhere in the world by just it's almost like a teleportation device, and so it works for access and it works for preservation. So I think this is a very feasible thing if it can be done, because again, culture keeps on evolving. So if in the next 10 or 50 years the collection of the museum might be different, so like it's very important and relevant to preserve culture, and technology will enable that to be easier, and like will enable the preservation easier, and also the dissemination of the preserved information reach a wider audience. Virtual reality is a very interesting concept, but in reality it's actually it's something very basic. It's just an output of containment of information. So right now, because it's very new and it's still evolving, it hasn't like properly settled down. The equipment might be a bit out of reach and expensive, but it's just output. It's output of 3D captured things. So there are things that we can still access, like 3D softwares. So when doing this experience, we discovered a lot of things to dance around and to make it work. So augmented reality is an option that you don't require the headsets per se to experience something that has been stored virtually. There are 3D softwares that can fit into any typical computer, like 3ds Max, ArchiCAD. So you can create things virtually. So the VR headsets are just the output of virtual things. They're not the technology that creates, they're not the technology that stores, they're just the technology that views. So you can create stuff that can later be viewed using the VR headsets. And I think it's generally a very, very interesting and a very nice way to capture. I think it captures the most information right now. It's more than linear, it's more than photography, which encapsulates time, like moments. So this captures moments in time in different angles, like in 360.